Motion moved. Item F, action and discussion on the shooting park up to following public comment.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Thank you for bringing that up. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Wyatt.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Shanes.
Aye.
Mayor Van
Aye. Legislative text on this particular item says, as discussed in the work session, concerns have been expressed by property owners in the proposed area of the sports park. They were asked to meet with the Crossville Shooting Sports Board. Contact exists between the City of Crossville and the Crossville Shooting Sports Park, Inc. to convey the property owner before April 1st, 2017. The 30-day advertisement period ends March the 23rd. As this states, that contract was signed February the 23rd. To convey the property to the Crossville Shooting Sports Park. Do I hear a motion in reference to this agenda item?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor. It's been brought to my attention, I've been absent for 45 days, that most of the property owners out there feel like that they were not given an opportunity during public comment or a public comment style workshop to have their concerns addressed or to learn more about that. And during our last work session a week ago tonight, I asked the individuals if they would be interested in having a public workshop or a situation where people could voice their opinions, find out more about the project from TWRA, and I'd just like someone to address that to see if that could be in the works or is in the works to satisfy these property owners as to what just exactly the decibel level is going to be, the traffic counts, the amounts of public use for this facility, and make it a public hearing where TDOT and the examples that they have when they go to pull property and make a road from it, they have a public hearing, and each property owner is identified, and letters are written to them to ask them to come and see just exactly how this project would influence or impact their property. Is there someone here that could address that question?
First of all, I think we need to have a motion on the floor to discuss. Could you make a motion that's pertinent to the City of Crossville in reference to that so we can further the discussion?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. I move that the City of Crossville requires the nonprofit organization to have a public hearing where the property owners are identified and asked to come to a meeting within the next 30 to 60 days to identify the pros and cons of a shooting range.
Get it? Do I hear a second in reference to that motion?
I'm going to second that.
Have a motion and a second. Now, discussion. The contract is designated, stipulated to close on or before April the 1st, I believe it is, Counselor. Was there a time frame in that reference, that motion?
Next 30 days.
On his motion?
On his motion, have that public hearing. and-
So how does that work with our existing contract?
I think, Mayor, his motion was 30 to 60 days.
Of course, any extension of the closing date would have to be agreed to by both parties, Crossville Shooting Sports Park Inc. and the City of Crossville. So if this motion passes, then that would cause a potential delay in the transfer and closing on this transaction. And so we would need the Shooting Sports Park to agree to it. However, if that was the only motion that passed, then that's my answer. So
If that's what?
maybe another, you may have another question later, but if that's the only motion that passes today, then that is my answer to that question.
So in other words, the motion is a request for the shooting park to speak with the property owners and work out differences with 30 to 60 days to discuss that, which would cause a delay in this contract that's scheduled to close on or before April the 1st. And to delay this contract would have to be approved by the city and the Crossville Shooting Sports Park Inc. Is that right?
Correct.
Mayor, I honestly feel like that if the people who may be impacted based on proximity to their property were a little better educated with regards to the facility and what the impact may be, that perhaps it might not be as bad as they think. I don't know. I'm not in their shoes, but I think a shooting park is a good thing for the community, and I'm in favor of a shooting park. I just want to be fair to all of the entities involved, and perhaps we did have some, overlook some due diligence on everyone's part, but I don't think we're going to make everybody happy no matter what decision's made.
Any other questions or comments in reference to this motion on the floor?
Mayor, I'd like to say, I thought until the end of the year, probably in January, this was a Cumberland County and City of Crossville, and I'd like to apologize. I should have done more homework. I do feel like anytime we do anything here, sell property, buy property, transfer assets, that we have to have a public hearing and notify the people in the area. So I guess I automatically thought that had been done. And that's what you get for thinking, I guess, rather than finding out for sure. I'm for a shooting park. If this property, something happens to it, I'll get out and I'll find some property. There is property available, and there's people that will donate. And there's, I've thought about it all day today and for the last week. There's people that have property that won't impact very few people. Not too far from here. So I think that these people need to be given the opportunity to speak and ask questions, and it should have been done a year ago.
If there is a delay on this, there are several items in your contract. There were different timelines on the contract as to when things have to be done. Completion deadlines. December 31st, 2017. So in other words, if you delay this 30 to 60 days, then all these deadlines are becoming even tighter to meet.
Both parties agreed to include covenants into the deed when we have the actual closing. One of those covenants says that if the shooting park fails to obtain a grant or sufficient funding to develop the shooting sports park by December 31st, 2017, that the property will automatically revert back to the city of Crossville. That was one of the things that Councilman White suggested we put in after we had several discussions on this contract at different meetings. Another timeline is that if any point in time in the future the nonprofit shooting sports park is not operated or maintained by a nonprofit of some type, within 180 days it would also revert back to the city of Crossville with all improvements and without cost. So the delay, I guess to answer your question, the delay in asking for a delay to have another public hearing wouldn't really affect these two. I guess it could affect the December timeline if it affected their funding from TWRA. I'm not sure what the status is on that funding. I heard somebody tonight say that they had received it. I don't know if that's the fact.
Does anyone know if the funding is tied to using that specific property? Does anyone know that?
Don't know that. Evidently. It is tied to that property. At this point. Okay, we have a
What did she
motion.
say, Mayor, at this point?
She said at this point that the
That's what they said.
TWRA grant is tied to that property.
At this point?
Yes.
But would they look at another piece of property in the event this one didn't fly?
They did.
Yes, sir.
Card, please. My name is Randall Boston. I'm a small businessman here in the middle of town. And I speak only as a member and on the board of a nonprofit corporation that is attempting to establish a shooting park off Albert Fry Road. It has nothing to do with any client that I should represent, or is the voice of any client that I should represent as in Coleman County, Tennessee. The gentleman, the name of Kenneth Carey, not Mayor Kenneth Carey, but Kenneth Carey and myself and several other members have fought for this project for quite some time. We entered into a contract with the city of Crossville. I think it would be 18.1 in that contract that says time is of the essence in this contract. There's no reason for me to go into economic impact. There's no reason for me to go into anything other than we negotiated with the city with good faith. We have entered into a contract with the city. I stand here not before you as an attorney. I stand here before you to say we have a contract. Did the nonprofit, which hadn't even formed, we didn't even form the nonprofit until we had an agreement with the city, go to every member on Albert Fry Road and say, here's what we want to do. As everyone on this council knows, if we were putting a tire trading facility at Albert Fry Road, the statute says you have to contact every member of the community. You have to post signs. That's the law, as I understand it. Further, as I understand it, there is no law that we have to post anything. This has been going on since the middle of 15. We have well documented stories by our local news sources, our Facebooks, our Twitters, and that's about as far as I can go, but nonetheless, it's been out there. There's no question that a shooting park, I don't believe, would be a concern that it actually makes noise. Drag strips make noise. Dirt tracks make noise. Airports make noise. This is for the benefit of the community and not for a few. I've known Harold Stryker since I was 15 years old, maybe younger.
Not that long.
You were thinner. Maybe it's me. I love it. Love him to death. Had we pulled up those property records, as I did as late as this weekend, I did not see Mr. Stryker's name on the Tennessee property data list. I would have not known to contact him. How were we supposed to know, as a nonprofit who's trying to benefit the community, who all do we contact? It's been in the Chronicle. It's been on the radio. It's been on social media. We don't know what further to go. We negotiated this contract in good faith with the city, and it entered same with a provision in that contract that we negotiated with the city attorney and the city of Crossville. The time is of the essence. So, tied to this property, who did we talk to and who we didn't talk to? We have a contract. Now, the provisions of that contract may be determined by someone at 60 Southland, Justice Center Drive. We don't want that. We're not at all interested in that. We did what we were required to do and what the public would request us to do. I'll open myself to any questions if I can answer them, but I'm not standing here today as an attorney. I'm standing here today on behalf of you, shooting sports, coming to campaign in Tennessee. Your Honor, please, I'll be able to answer any questions you'd like.
Any questions for Mr. Boston? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Wade. Make it quick, this is out of order. That's what we've been operating.
You know, I'll make it quick. Thanks for giving me a chance. But I'd like to make everybody aware that there's been so misinformation on this. Even tonight, the speakers addressed and said, this shooting park's going to be put on the landfill. It's all heard. The landfill is not going to have a shooting park. The landfill has been exempt from the land that you're selling for $1. It's going to be a Chestnut Hill Road shooting park. What happened to Albert Fry Road? I'm sure it's never been in the paper. It's going to be on Albert Fry. It's going to be Chestnut Hill. It's going to be a landfill. The problem with nobody complaining is it's been misrepresented, probably not by intention, but the facts are it's going to be on the landfill. Even tonight you was told that. I don't understand how anybody would know where it's going to be with the way everything's done. All the facts have been out, people would have been complaining. But a landfill, that's a great thing to do something with a landfill. But the landfill is not in it now. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this particular motion that's on the floor?
Call for the question, Mr. Mayor.
Call for question. Do I have a second for the call for question?
Second.
A motion, call for question and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Graham. Councilmember Wyatt.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Shays.
Aye.
Mayor Mayberry.
Aye. Can you read the motion back to us, please, one more time?
That the city of Crossville requires the nonprofit organization to have a public hearing where the property owners are identified and asked to come to a public meeting within the next 30 to 60 days to address the pros and cons of a shooting range.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Wyatt.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Shanks.
Just want a clarification. There's nothing in this about delaying the contract. Is that correct? In the motion?
No.
Okay. Aye.
Mayor Mayberry.
If it's 30 to 60 days, it'll definitely delay the
It
contract.
just says that there's going to be a public meeting between the two groups.
There's not a 30 to 60 day deadline on that?
Within 30 to 60, but it doesn't mention the contract.
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, could we have a 5-minute recess, please?
Sure.